This is Help Wanted, the show that makes your work work for you. I'm Jason Pfeiffer, editor-in-chief of Entrepreneur Magazine.
And I'm money expert Nicole Lappin. On Tuesdays, Jason and I answer the helpline and help callers solve their work problems.
And on Thursdays, I give you one way to improve your work and build a career or company you love.
And it starts now.
The best question that you can ever ask is why? And the worst question you can ever ask is why? Why? Well, here's why. Right now, I'm going to guess you are being impacted by someone else's decisions and someone else's actions. Maybe you're not thinking about it exactly like that, but let's step back. Maybe your company made a big change. Maybe your boss issued some new order. Maybe a client made an unexpected decision. Maybe a friend did something that you were not happy with. Either way, someone else acted. Now you are stuck with the consequences. Your job is more frustrating. Your work is more complicated. Your future is less clear. And there is one question that you want to ask, and it is, why? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this to me? But wait, before you ask that question, and it is an important question, you have to know that everything rides on how you ask it. So before you get there, you really need to appreciate, truly, openly, earnestly appreciate how that other person is thinking. Today, I will show you how to do that by building what I call a logic chain. This is such an important step before you ever get to asking why. There is work to be done before you ask why. And to start, to show what that work is, to show why it's so important, I'm going to tell you about a senior manager at a large company who learned this lesson the hard way. All right. Lately, I've been doing a gratifying kind of consulting. Some large companies have been going through big change, and then they have asked me to come in and speak with groups of their highly valued, highly concerned employees. So these are people who have now navigated some major shifts in their work. They maybe have seen a lot of their friends get laid off. It's really hard. It is a tense environment. And I come in and we have these hard, deep conversations about their future and how to feel more adaptable and how to take their next steps. And a few months ago, I did one of these sessions in a large conference room. Just picture it. There are 30 senior leaders sitting around a table, flummoxed and frustrated. Basic parts of their job just got harder, and they feel ignored. And some of them, it was pretty clear, were thinking about quitting. So I said to them, "Do you know why the company made these decisions?" And they did not. "To screw with us," one joked. People laughed. So here's what I told them. I said, look, let's start with a basic assumption. Most people do not act randomly. They act based on their own internal logic, and their actions follow what I call a logic chain. The chain is really simple. So just imagine it like this. If X is true, then Y is true, then Z is true, which means I must take action. This is not some foreign thing. This is what literally every human being, including you, does in order to make a decision. We all operate off of logic chains. Every decision you've ever made was based on a logic chain. Why did you take or quit that job? Why did you date or dump that person? It's because it fit into your logic chain. It was your logic at the time. Because of this, I need to do that, right? You were seeing things and you were taking action based on what you felt was the best decision at the time. That's it. That's a logic chain. Now, not everyone's logic is good, but let's set that aside from now. That's not the point. Instead, we just need to appreciate as a starting point that people combine what they see and what they learn and what they believe to be true, and they make the best decisions that they can. They are not acting randomly. They are not acting just out of spite. I mean, maybe some people act out of spite, but if your job is to make sure that a company is healthy, you're not just like making random decisions to just screw with people. That's not what you're doing. So, okay, if you are impacted by someone else's decision and you do not understand why they have made it and it seems really crazy, your first job is that you must learn their logic chain. If you want to understand anyone's decision, then you must understand their logic chain. Even if you disagree with it, even if you think that they are nuts, you must appreciate how they are reaching their decisions. you have to just acknowledge as a starting point that they are building some kind of logic. They are trying to make the right decisions, and you have to understand how they got to them. And how are you going to do that? I mean, we can't step inside of people's heads, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately. So we're going to start by guessing. We're going to assume that they have good intentions. And now we're going to build a logic chain based on what they might see so that it explains their current actions. So if you're at a company and that company is going through major changes and layoffs, you might think this. You might say, I'm just making something up here. You might say, well, okay, my boss's job is to keep the company healthy and to grow sales. So that's what she's waking up every morning worried about. And now she sees sales go down in this area. And she's also watching industry trends. And that's where she sees some other kind of sales go up. And so she's looking at where we're invested heavily in the last year. And she's seeing it misalign with trends. And so now she's thinking and on and on and on. And eventually that leads to the actions that were taken. Now, what's the point of this guessing as to the logical reason that somebody would have taken some action that you don't like? There are two, really. There are two reasons. Reason number one, once you imagine other people's logic chains, those people become more human. They're no longer agents of chaos. They're just people making the best decisions they can, again, even if you disagree with them. And you might not think that that is a transformative moment, but trust me, if you try this, you will discover that the person who you are frustrated with, they start to make some more sense. Again, even if you disagree with them, they just make sense. And that is so important. That is just the most important foundation that you can build before you go and talk to them about these decisions. Anyway, that's just point number one. Here's the second reason to do this. It's so that you can start to develop your own informed decisions. If someone is operating under this logic chain, well, okay, are you willing to follow them through that logic chain? Are you willing to endure whatever comes because they are following that logic chain? Or is it time for you to leave? Maybe. Or maybe it's time for you to figure out how to influence where they're going. But wait, before you make any final decisions, let's stop guessing. It is now time to ask the big question. The question I set out at the beginning of this episode. The question is very simply, why? And here's the right and the wrong kind of why. All right, let's go back to my meeting that I told you about with those senior leaders at that company that's going through a big disruption. I explained this idea to them, the logic chain. Step back, imagine how your bosses, how the C-suite of your company is thinking. How are they logically getting to the decision that they have made? And I said, just do it. Just imagine the company's changes from your CEO's point of view. That is when one of the leaders in the room spoke up. I'm just going to call him Guy. Guy said to me this. He said, I just had a meeting with our director where I tried to understand all this and the director got angry at me. And I said to Guy, I said, well, how did you ask the director? And Guy thought for a second and then got sheepish and admitted what happened. The director was explaining the new process and Guy just snapped at the director and said, why? Well, no wonder it went poorly. We often ask why when we are confused or lost, which means that we're vulnerable and defensive. In this context, why is confrontational. It's like asking, why are you taking this away from me? Or maybe justify your terrible actions to me. That's not useful. That's the wrong way to ask why, when it's all about you, the person asking the question. So now here's the right way to ask why. In that conference room, talking to those leaders, I said, try this. When you talk with someone you disagree with, start by acknowledging what you do agree on. And in my example, the example of that company, the agreement was really simple. The senior leaders and their bosses both want the company to succeed. During moments of great change, it can be hard to keep something like this in mind, this basic shared desire for success. Why? Well, because, you're wondering if the other person is really committed to success, given how disruptive they're being to your vision of success. And they wonder if you're really committed to success because they're not sure you're on board with what they need for their vision of success. You need to establish this shared goal if you're going to get anywhere. You need to reiterate your commitment to it. Say something like, I know we both want sales to go up and I want to help, but I'm feeling lost on this new process. So can you please explain what is driving these decisions so that I can help contribute to its success? Now, really listen to their answer. Really listen to what they say. They might see something or know something that you do not. Their logic chain might be correct. And this is not just about corporate reorgs. Let's zoom out from that. This works for any disagreement or confusion with anyone, your employees, your friends, your partner. And here's the best part. There's literally no harm in going through this process, in seeing something from someone else's point of view, of acknowledging what you both have in common. There is nothing lost in doing that. This process only contains upside. Once you see where someone else is coming from, do you need to follow them because you spend some time thinking about it and talking to them about it? No. Maybe they're on a different path than you now. Maybe you think they are fundamentally wrong and it's time for you to leave. Or maybe you give it 3 or 6 months and you see if they're right and then you decide. Either way, I told the senior leaders at that company that I was consulting for, I said, once you go through this process, you will have more information. There will be no more guessing. Everyone acts based on their own logic chain, and that includes you. Your feelings and your actions are driven by your own sense of logic. Maybe you're right, but maybe you're wrong. Maybe you won't know until you pull that logic chain tightly and make sure that every link is tight and secure and in the proper place. And then you can act, not out of fear or anger or feeling hurt, but because you know more than you did before. And that is really the point. And if you are a regular Help Wanted listener, then you know what I'm about to say. What you just heard originated in my newsletter. My newsletter is called One Thing Better. Each week, one way to build a career or company you love and feel more successful and satisfied doing it. I write those, I send them out along with some other goodies, and then a few weeks later, I read them here on Help Wanted. You can just stay tuned and get them here. Or if you like reading, who doesn't like reading? And getting things early, then you can subscribe to my newsletter at onethingbetter.email. That is a web address. Just plug it into the browser, onethingbetter.email. Whatever you do next will be driven by your own logic chain. And I guess if you don't subscribe, then I will be left to ask, why? Why? Help Wanted is a production of Money News Network. Help Wanted is hosted by me, Jason Pfeiffer.
And me, Nicole Lappin. Our executive producer is Morgan Lavoie. If you want some help, email our helpline at helpwanted@moneynewsnetwork.com for the chance to have some of your questions answered on the show. And follow us on Instagram at Money News and TikTok at Money News Network for exclusive content and to see our beautiful faces. Maybe a little dance.
Oh, I didn't sign up for that.
All right, well, talk to you soon.